in our state and also in this area, everybody this year is talking about this. Talking about emergency plans. I'm sure you've seen the stuff talking about flooding, and we're worried about it here. We're seeing it in Salt Lake in the news. So everybody here is talking about preparedness, emergency storage, home storage. How much we're doing about it varies, I'm sure, by ward and by state and by household. So we're kind of in between. So we had a chance to teach a little bit of a preparedness lesson early on this year. And we've adapted a couple of slides into this presentation. Consequently, we're going to use it some other times. Thank you for inviting us to do that, because it helps us to put a couple of things together. So I've got a couple of questions I'm going to ask. They're simple questions, but I think they're good questions. Obviously, how many here have food storage? Okay. So I don't have to tell you that if you eat one can of beans this week, you don't have it. You probably know that simple process. We did have a young man stopped in this week, newly married, was fine. He was a returned missionary, and he came and he grabbed a few cans, number 10 cans, off of the shelves in our storeroom. And he said, we just got married, and I told my wife, we just need to start buying some food storage. He says, every week I'm going to come in and buy, and he bought 5 or 6 cans.
Well, you spent $100.
Yeah. So he says, slowly we're going to build it up. So that's what we'll love to see. And at the end, we're going to do some questions and answers. And if you want, I think when we're done, we can tell you kind of an idea of how much product we sell in the St. George home storage. We'll tell you that if you want. It's kind of exciting for us as we started there. So, but this is a poster that one of our sisters made that we have right there, and obviously it's a pretty good poster. It wasn't raining. We like to bring people that when people come into the home storage area, and I don't know if you've been there recently or whatever, it's where the cannery used to be. So the Bishop Storehouse on one side. I'm not going to talk a lot about that today, although we love it there. It's really great. And then where the cannery part used to be, where all the machinery is, that's where we now have the warehouse that has all the storage stuff in it. So this was in preparedness. We'll ask a question anyway. It's important. So if you were one of those occupations, or pick whatever you've done in your life, what tools do you need to be successful? What would you need?
Most of it's right here.
Okay, so yeah. A lot of it's up here. A lot of it's slow learn, right?
Yes.
You're like, I'm sorry, slowly build. What are the things we do? You know, when you think about that question, and again, this led a little bit into the preparedness that we worked on. In our state, we're trying to do some preparedness classes. And so this is a question that we asked right off the bat. We're obviously a mixed group of young adults for self-reliance. So I'm a mechanic by trade, so I had to get tools. And slowly I built up the tools. My dear wife, she had a chance to.
So I was at lunch middle school for 18 years.
The food service coordinator. And anyway, we look at that, so we ask that question. And then we go down and we ask, what do you need for your family? So again, if we, whatever group we'd have here, but if we had young marrieds, we're going to start leading into this and asking, what do you need for preparedness? So I led into preparedness. Okay. So, and then it was on self-reliance, and obviously we're going to talk about preparedness here. And we're going to briefly go through all 3 processes of it, if it's okay. And then we'll get into some really deep questions about home storage. We can give you what little bit we know, which probably is less than you are. Let's see how we know that. If you're prepared to show up here, I guess we'll. Who knows about Mother Hubbard? You guys know that story? I asked that question in the group, and we had a young adult who had never heard that, so we're able to share that. And so we asked this: what does our food storage look like? You know, And the young Marys that came in, his was like Mother Hubbard's, and some of you may have one that's, got the ice cream and the cookies and all the stuff you need to go with, which is great, which is exactly what we're working towards in some area. Here's a good question. As we ask people, what are you doing? Are you living that paycheck to paycheck? Are you slowly building that with self-reliance? This one we put this presentation together in our state, and we had a sister that put this for us. Prices ahead. I mean, a lot of people live just like this, and obviously, food storage is one of those important parts. If you're starving, it's going to be tough to feel this food. We did have somebody come in the other day, and they were somewhere back east or whatever, and they talked to somebody who actually had eaten stuff. And they said, I said, well, once you get past, that's not too bad. And she said, I might eat scum just before I ate it. So, but there's some countries that are eating stuff that probably was that. I know that at the end of the Vietnam War, they brought a lot of people, refugees over here, much like we're doing now for other countries. We lived in California. All of a sudden, all of the squirrels in Los Angeles were gone because they were eating squirrels.
Stray cats and dogs,
Yeah,
too, I'm
I mean,
sure.
I didn't think they ate the cats, but I know they ate the dogs. And it's just the last one we had. It was just a question. So, okay, here's what I want to help us understand this. Why should we, or why shouldn't we have home storage? So why would you have home storage? Peace of mind, great. Did you find one? Great.
I had my sister, her husband lost his job, didn't have any work for almost a year, and they lived off their food storage.
We've been there.
Yeah.
My wife and I have been there. We lived completely with very meager income and didn't worry a bit.
Yeah.
Because we'd already been rotating the food storage. We knew we liked that stuff.
Maxi help.
What is it? Somebody said, store what you eat and eat what you store, and rotate it. We've talked to a lot of people in the last 6-8 months who said they do that. We had a couple today that just buying stuff. You're unique here. We're down there in St. George, and the weather's perfect down there. We never have problems other than too much traffic. And the grocery stores are okay, but when you get a good snowstorm, you may not live down in St. George. It's not like you have a grocery store like here.
Or if there's an earthquake.
Yeah. And you live in the shadow of a volcano, right? Honestly. So
You never know that.
you never know.
It's dormant, but.
So those are some good answers, the out of work. That could happen. Slow down. Remember when we had the floods a lot of years ago, which they worry about now. I mean, businesses were shut down because of that. Workers just, I wonder about it. What do I do? Well, I'm pretty chance to work because the building has 3 feet of water, so we have to pay constantly don't work. So it's important. So we really like that. I thought about this when I was invited to do this presentation. This one thought as to why we do it. And I think for our younger generation, or kids or grandkids, or neighbors or friends around us, why? Well, there might be a time where you're out of work. There is so much snow we can't get down. Maybe it's only a day or two, but some people don't even have that much.
The other massive thing that my wife and I were talking about just this week is look at the price change in just the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
We bought ours 2 years, 3 years ago, and we're eating from 3-year-old prices right now. And it's going to take a long while for us to have to start really spending the prices that are right now. We're still spending $400 to $600 a month on replacement, but we're not trying to eat this month's prices, which have increased by 30 to 50%.
So our milk went up.
Yeah, this was $5,
By $90.
maybe $5.70. It's now $7.60 or something.
So we're $2.50 a bag.
It did.
Yeah, $1.25.
So that's a 50%.
That
Increase
was,
roughly.
yeah, the first of this year, that was the price increase.
Mhm.
And people came in today and looked at the price in that case. And they just about swallowed their tongue. You know, it's $89 for 12 bags of milk.
And what we got when we're done here, what we take, is we have a current price sheet, which has all the products that the Storehouse has. And we have everything except for white meat. We have some
We have
other,
bagged white meat,
Yeah.
we don't have chicken.
we have some other handouts that we'll give you that you can have a chair, do what you like. And that was a question of why. When should we start home storage?
When was the best time to plant a tree?
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Right.
When's the second best time? Now.
You know, we remember when we had shortages of toilet paper, you know, and we'll talk a little bit about Ukraine. We'll tell you a little bit about the other stuff that's happening. And the last one is how home storage. So let's hypothetically think of a young couple. They just get married, and your grandkids, whatever, just get married. And you want to explain this to them. How do you explain the how home storage? What would you tell them? So obviously, well, go out buy here's what it's doing. It's not easy to do. We had a young man who came in, probably 30 years old, and he had the feeling last year, he says, I've got to get to food storage. He was a single, lived at home with his parents, but he said, I need to buy some food storage. So he came in and got a form. So we have a survey, a BYU survey, that says approximately what one person would need for a year's worth of food. So we had that survey, we had it, we printed it. So we got it and took it home, and we thought, gee, that's great, we love it, we love you to buy it. God bless you. He came back the next day with his dad with a list, and he bought a year's supply of food. And in fact, we had so much that we had to keep half of it for the next day, we didn't come back. We loaded in his truck.
I think he got
With
everything
that
that
list,
this, what we have there. I mean, this gives you suggestions of other things too, but he bought what this says, about $3,500 worth.
So I got it, so this is another important question, I think, as we start to talk about home storage, or, you know, buddies, how do you do it?
When Y2K, everybody remembers that.
Yes.
And I was on the Cardinals Network where we were then. And we had a sheet that was a year, and it told you week by week what to pick up. And if you picked up, and each week it was very, you know, just a minimal amount, a couple of cans, but it told you exactly what to buy. That at the end of a year, you would, after 52 weeks, you would have food storage for one person for a year. And it was, especially for young people,
Yeah.
it was an easy way because it wasn't overwhelming. It's like buy 2 extra, you know, cans of peanut butter or buy jelly or.
We have something similar.
Yeah.
Some older man came in and he said, we got talking. He said, oh, I was going through, my mom passed away, I was going through stuff. She had this list, you know, so it's monthly.
Your list.
It's, you know,
Yeah.
January through December. And it's not just food, it puts in there, buy an extra deal or buy a
Band-Aids, buy,
So it's that list.
Yes.
So we made those available too.
It's similar.
But it makes it easy. They can see where it can be doable.
Yes.
It's not 3,500 or
Exactly.
whatever.
Some man, because he's living with his parents, he says, I don't ever want to have to, I don't, you know.
Do it now.
Read and do without, he says, I'm just.
We heard great stories through the holidays, and you know, everybody that came in with his kids, you know,
A lot.
a lot.
of people.
So anyway, just another big quick question. Do you know about 72-hour kids? You don't spend a lot of time. Although I will tell you that in our state, our state president, we have a new state president, said, I really want to get everybody to at least get on board and have that. You know, I mean, obviously we don't know where everybody's at in the line of stories, but he says if we can get every person to have at least a 72-hour kit, we've accomplished. So we actually have a list of that we brought with us, the items to put in 72 hours. We've got some stuff down at the end, a 72-hour bucket, a backpack, you know, and obviously there's things we need to do there. But that, so I listed that emergency food sources. You know, if the volcano blows up, or you know, Santa Clara River floods again, if you had to go somewhere, you could throw something in car at least. You know, out there, whatever. So we have that one again for short term. Everybody knows that all the cans are labeled, can bags, whatever, are labeled with they use test time. And we had somebody come in today that talked about, first she has a couple of granddaughters. She said, you know what? They won't eat anything that has a date. If it's a day after that, they won't even look at the can. Yeah. And so some of that 30-year-old meat or 40-year-old beans or whatever, you know, whether we eat it or feed it to animals or whatever, you know, it's still usable. I know that at the food bank, and we've all contributed to the Utah Food Bank, and it goes all over. It used to be that they would not take cans that were over 2 years past that date. Now they send it, actually, they don't use it. They were going for 5 years. Now they send it past that, because somewhere they can use that product.
At the last gathering, they told us, if it's within 3 months, don't put it on your porch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they take,
Yeah, their policy is,
they will
at least
take-
on collection, they said, don't even put it out. They have to not, there's too much liability now. They don't want it anymore.
I know that we will tell you at the Bishop Storehouse, we work really close with Elder Wayne Wyatt, who's over the whole thing. And we obviously have a lot of product for Bishop's orders to give it to patrons. And that is the same expiration date point. And yes, we can't, you know, we're not supposed to use it past a certain time, you know, if we have plenty of supply. And so,
Oh, I was thinking, do you know where it came from, the expiration dates? I went to a lecture with the FDA, and it came about because manufacturers, when the FDA started, manufacturers had to keep X amount of cases of every lot of food. Everything they produced had to had a date on it, and they wanted a date on it, and they had to keep it for so many years. And it became a warehousing problem. And they shortened the dates and shortened the dates and shortened the dates. And he said it has nothing to do. He says after 2 or 3 years, you might lose some nutritional value. He says, but if the can's not bulged, or if it's not leaky, or if it's not black and smells bad, he says you are just fine. He says those things, most things, tomatoes, some things, because the acid will kill the can. He says, but it was a warehousing problem. He says it has nothing to do with the values of food.
so you were reading a food storage book today. We were now serving one where it started in 1906. It actually was around 2030. That's when it started. And they were talking about how were they doing something about they were doing stuff out in the field and open pots and
well,
But that's home care.
well, yeah, it was way back then. That's the Depression time, and they were canning open fires with open kettles, and they knew somebody that was a chemist, and they gave him one of the cans to go test to make sure that it's safe, not no poisons or anything. And that can, 1 out of 10,000 cans come back safe, and they felt it was so good.
yeah, it's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
And we think that might be part of the reason why we don't have a can. Federal regulations came down, and we just said, you know, put whatever. You know, our own store it for yourself at home. So we don't have any. So short term is stuff that we have on the shelf, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever amount of years it is, so we'll give it away or whatever, give to our neighbors. We just talking to that, and a lot of people are on this mode. You know, they've got the pre-box, just enough in the cupboard, the Mother Hubbard's cupboard type, just enough to get us by. Well, we're going to store it next week. Well, what if we take it down the hill? We're going to be glad to have some. And then long term. So long term is what we now do at the store. What we have is 10 years at a minimum. 30 years is they don't care. So we brought that all that's in the Bishop Storehouse is number 10 cans. We only have the 3 bag products, which is the milk. How many of us have milk in cans? You know, that was, they said 10 years, now it's in Mylar bags, it's 20 years. It lasts longer than that. That's a product that's changed. We have 2 years on the other. That's the long term, that's what we're helping people do. And we try to help people understand, what do I need? When we get those questions, what's your product? What do you need? And so those are the 3 steps of that. So now, what do you want to know? What do you want to share?
So do you actually sell like bulk bags or become a bag?
So we have,
The white meat, the white, our meat is the
Okay. You have stumps and cans.
everything else is.
now, we will tell you that, and this is another fun thing about being there, is we hear stories from all over. There's actually another organization that has canned food up in Cedar City that has a lot of bag stuff. It's run by Wiggins Store. It's a great store, great people. They have a lot of stuff.
It's a nice store.
What's it called?
It's a little more expensive.
What's it called? Brookfield Farms.
Brookfield.
There's another company, it's called Rainy Day Foods
Yeah.
out of Idaho that you can buy
Yeah.
50 bags of.
For our neighborhood, As Your Standard is doing wonderful. There's more people buying from that all the time. The truck delivers every month. We've got tons of stuff. AZURE standard.com. Yeah.
The nice thing about what the Bishop Storehouse has, storage, it's all in cans, it's easy to store. We try to calculate if you bought a 25-pound bag a week and then had to can it yourself. Trying to find the cans is difficult, there's a place that has those, but it comes out to about the same cost. It's $18.80 for 25 pounds of meat, and I think it's $42 for 6 cans of meat, the exact price. By the time you pay $3 a can, and at the time the can equals out about the same. You know, so that if somebody's just saying, well, I just want to buy storage, but as a project, yeah, you can buy it from one of these other large ones that if you have. Some states have it.
That chef. They've got bags. They've got bags.
Balance of philosophy. Obviously, number 10 cans, long storage life, so forth. Home canning, home bottling. What's the right balance between all of the different things so that there's some security there?
Well, I'll give you my opinion. I don't cook, so that's some of my opinion is probably not really right. But we have some of all. Obviously, we're going to use up our cans first.
We would use frozen.
So for example,
Frozen first.
yeah,
Then I would go to my cans, you know,
Small.
like my packaged beans, my smaller cans of stuff. You know, I put this vitamin C in here, that's actually on the list. need to have your whatever pills, vitamins, need to have some and be rotating. So that I certainly don't have years supply. I mean, you know, but if you can have some extras and try to rotate in, then,
So what we might do,
but I would do, that's what I would do, use the freezing stuff with PTs.
but obviously you're gonna have to use some rice, you're gonna rice with whatever chicken or beef you got in there, and
Yeah.
beans, you're gonna use it, but we wanna use up again, can't easily carry. So let's hypothetical, okay, we've got food storage, our neighborhood runs out, there's a whatever, we're gonna share. We might as well just, we're gonna be asked, well, that's my opinion. We'll probably say, can we share, let's go down to the church and we're gonna just have a big meeting. We're gonna make a lunch one day for the community, you know, and so we might say, hey,
Everybody
can
bring
you
it
bring
in.
some? Yeah, I can bring some can of rice, right? I kind of think that would happen. I think that would happen in our state. And so then I would say, okay, we're feeding that many people, we're gonna use food. If we had to, this is just a hypothetical, if we were asked to say, hey, could you put together 25 meals with that? We would probably open up the rice and we would divvy it out into, this will be enough for a family of 5, and bag it up. And like Sherry
store
showed,
bags.
yeah, you store some bags.
Mylar or
Ziploc
Just
style.
Ziploc sandwich.
Yeah,
bags,
because-
Ziploc bags, gallon bags or quart bags.
It would probably obviously be somebody who would be needing it right away.
Someone knocks on the door, you're not handing them a
No,
number 10
you're
can.
not. Just gonna hand them a bag full of stuff. I don't know how you do it, but here it is. You know?
And so I could see that happening. But, so then we would probably get into some of those.
My worry, my worry is they're not gonna knock on your door. They'll break in and want to steal what you
You know,
got.
there's a lot of things. That
There's a lot of
happen
things
now
that
that
can
you never know. We read in this book, they were talking about, it was back in 1930s, you know, the Depression. They said a guy had a really nice field of squash and beans, and, you know, everybody ran out of food. Guess where they went? They came to his field and cleaned it out. Luckily, his family had bought the stuff. He said, well, we gotta sell this got bottled stuff, so let them take the fresh stuff and food.
I know my dad was raised off the reservation in Oklahoma, and he said my mom always had a pot of beans on her stove all the time, every day. He says because there were always so many people that came by that needed a meal, and he says, you know, rice and beans and beans and rice, you know, and he says, you just, back then during that Depression, that's what they needed.
Whole pallet of pinto beans and rice. I mean, he's done that. He's got, you know, room to store it, and he says, I'll need for something. And he has the money to do that, and so that's where he's invested his money.
Seeds and gardening capability. I mean, this is wonderful to think that we're going to eat from a can, but today I want to eat fresh. That's
Sprouting.
And so we've actually put that in this presentation too. There's some seeds there.
oh, wonderful.
You know, if you're not a great gardener, we'll try it. You know, it can't hurt to
I
try.
agree. You need to be, even if it's just one flower bed, you need to put something.
Beets.
It takes 5 or 6 years to just learn the area and skills enough to get anything out of the ground. We've been in Diamond Valley 6 years, and we finally go, well, maybe we'll get part of a harvest this year.
Yeah. Well, and I have an apricot tree. It blooms quite early. I usually, if it ripens, my fruit is ripe in May instead of June. Well, because we've had so many freezes, I probably won't get any apricots. It was loaded with blossoms. You
We
know?
never get apricots
Yeah,
or
I know.
peaches, but
Open
this
this
year
year.
we're right.
Last year I got about 2.
Uh-huh.
They just start.
0 up here. We got
So
finished
it's,
up.
you know, the thing is, she did. Whatever it is.
Well, we just try to do something. Any other questions?
Do you have any slides after this?
No.
I'm going to turn on the main lights so that we can see what's up there on the.
You have some good recipe books on using.
I just got this one today. This one I got at Siegel Book, but I know sister I served with, she got hers at Deseret Book. And I got these two off of Amazon. It's using your food storage. It's two-
I have one from Honeyville Farms, and they have a book that's called Meals in a Jar. That they do it all with their products. And a couple of girlfriends and I got together, and we bought everything to make, and we made 4 or 5 different kinds of meals, and we did them sealed in Mylar bags, you know. And so, because once you open your cans, then you have to use it.
Right.
And so it was fun to get together, and we just did assembly, and you know, and you put everything in it, whether it's the meat, the rice, vegetables, your seasoning, and then just throw in
So
an
did you?
oxygen pack and seal it up.
Was it dehydrated meat?
Mhm.
That's- Yeah, if you have a freeze dryer.
So
I
I did,
think you can get Mylar bags off Amazon. Oxygen bags off of Amazon. And I bought a sealer too, so.
You can use a
do lot
curling
of
iron.
things For yourself with those.
now I did hear
Use an
about the
iron?
freeze
Is that what you
dryers.
said?
A curling iron. It was a flat iron.
Uh-huh,
And a flat iron.
To close that. That's,
We'll see them.
didn't think about that.
So she was complaining, she freeze dried all this food, but if you get any moisture in it at all, it goes bad.
Oh.
So she's like, storage for freeze dried, this stuff was prohibitive. So she wasn't even doing
Who's
it
she?
anymore.
Who's she?
Robin Sanderson, Jelly.
Oh, really?
And that's why we would use the stuff that we've already ziplocked or whatever. That would be in our rotation list if we're gonna start using
Yeah,
that.
see,
Spaghetti and spaghetti.
I did spaghetti. So I bought some next week's for this 15 sheet that I just did. I didn't do it in my log. This is kind of definitely will keep the bugs out
Yeah.
better than the store packaging. I have to eat gluten-free, so I bought gluten-free noodles and I put them in here.
Ziploc.
And mice will eat Mylar bags, so make sure you have your Mylar bags in a tote.
My daughter puts it in a bucket. Actually,
Yeah.
yes,
Anything.
big Mylars in a bucket.
And I did brown sugar in those. Man, it was hard when I opened it up.
Oh, yeah.
Did not work for brown sugar.
Just put a slice of bread.
I don't know why you.
You put it in a jar with a piece of bread and it softens.
Store.
I just let mine go hard, and then when I eat it,
Yeah.
I get it back out and soften it up and use it.
And we've heard people on regular sugar say, chip it down.
Piece of bread in it, this softens back up.
I have a 5-gallon thing of solid honey.
Yeah. Set it in the sun.
It doesn't stay unsolid very long after you put it in jars, though.
Yeah.
We did all of that last year, and it's back to hard again.
Yeah. Just sit it in the sun, it will soften.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, again, I'm kind of a famous person, just a little bit about, again, the home storage. We've been here, started early June or July. So when COVID hit, well, our average, so the manager that was in the storehouse keeps track by month how much product that we sell. We go through. Obviously, it's made by the church, it's discounted as much as they can. No tax. So he just kept track of how much product we sold here. Here, ours is, I don't know if it's the largest one. I mean, obviously, we're way larger than Cedar City. The next farthest one down is Las Vegas. So we have a pretty good population base that can buy from us. When we get approximately 300 sales a month, about 300 people come in, buy different variants, whatever. So we were averaging about $20,000 to $30,000 a month of product that we sell. You know, says, oh, that's good. You know, people are buying storage. That. When March, yeah, COVID hit and it was first, and so they went from $35,000 to $85,000. People saying, I'm going to get some food in case there is any. Remember we had the ration, you could only get one toilet paper, one bar of soap. Like, we didn't have that, but they said, hey, we're going to make sure you get food. So we went from 35 to like 85,000. The next month, things were still not looking great. There was $104,000 worth of product.
In 1 month.
In 1 month. The missionaries that were there, they said they had people lined up outside and just get a
Because they
number.
wouldn't let them come in.
Yeah, they couldn't come in. And when they finally let them come in, it would only be like 3 people at a time. Maybe do that. April comes around, right? Things are getting better. Smoothing out. What happens? Ukraine hits. Ukraine was one of those big worry things. And one guy mentioned, we go from panic to apathy. It's okay, we don't need it. Well, this was a panic month. So we sold 104,000 for COVID. What do you think we sold for Ukraine? It was more. It was $204,000.
From 20 to 200,000.
Right. And so the product, I mean, we get product once a month, and it was just like off the shelf.
There wasn't any.
Yeah, there wasn't anything.
The whole month's worth.
Yeah, we were looking at how much you got. We have a good selection now. So last year, our storehouse sold $900,000 worth of storage. That's a pretty good. People are buying food storage, are buying home storage. Not as many as we'd love to have, but we hope that people in. And again, we have the young married who comes in and buys 5 or 6 cans a week or whatever a month. And then we have somebody who comes in and buys 2 full pallets, which is 256 cans per pallet. Product that we wanted to have. It's got 14 grams, 100-gram bulk. So he said, my neighbors will be able to do that if they like rice and beans. Right? But that's
And that's kind of key to me. I eat what I feel like. I eat beans, I eat rice, I eat, you know, those things. The wheat, I grind them and eat it. So, you know, it's just part of the diet, and I make them.
So here's a question that we've talked about. You know, we've been married a long time. Well, not really that long. And we started home storage, and we were lucky. We bought a house and we moved here, and it had a storage room downstairs with shelves in it already.
We didn't buy a new house.
We didn't buy a new house. That's okay. And so we were able to put this stuff on the shelf. And so, what is the best way to figure out what we need?
My wife, I don't even remember how many years ago, she just started logging it. She kept a log, and at the end of the year, she said, this is how much we use. This is what we're going to store. And that's exactly what we do. We adjust it because our needs change, but that's why we know that what's in that storage is what we're eating, because we're eating what we store. And we didn't store this method. We stored what we're eating, because she's gluten-free like you. I'm allergic to sugar completely, so the standard church published thing would absolutely not work for either one of us. We had to design our own. But it's unique to us. I don't know that a young couple today should wait for a whole year as the inventory. They probably ought to start with something. And now our philosophy is, and we started way back then, $200 to $400 every time goes into storage. And we're not eating boxed and canned off the shelf Costco stuff. We're eating fresh, whole, and bulk all the time.
So that's exactly what, as we talk to people again for this 6 months or better, they say, well, I think I might have this or I might have that. Our first suggestion is, you know what, go inventory what you have, get an idea of what we've got. You don't have to list everything, but if you've got a ton of wheat, you probably don't need to buy wheat today. Be okay. But kind of look and then start evening it out to slowly build it up. Simply build it up.
I think, to me, the biggest challenge, like when I look at my own family, is with all the young people, is they are into quick and easy. I want that box. I want that package that all I have
They're
to,
so
you know,
picky and
yeah.
finicky.
and teaching them. My mom taught us, she says, you shop outside of the store.
That's right.
She says, you don't go in the aisles unless there's something specific you need. She says, you only, because that way you're buying just the fresh products. And it's teaching our kids to cook and to use and get away from, my grandson, I said, well, do you have? He says, yeah, I bought 3 cases of ramen noodles. Oh, yay.
Look at the nutritional quality there.
Yeah, I hope you at least bought some frozen vegetables to throw in it too.
Well,
You know?
if he wants to get some stuff out, he can styrofoam. But yeah, it's teaching us to do that. I guess that's our challenge now, is to teach our next generation. What can we do to help them?
We know you. Yes, we do. You're our missionary.
We need a horrible crisis for about 3 years so that we almost starve to death to teach them. That's what we really need. We need another depression or a war or something.
And we don't want that, but
No.
someday something's going to happen. We're going to have to finish someone.
It's gonna happen.
And it won't be, well, I don't really love that. Well, yeah, I don't really love that either, but guess what? It's going to push the ribs apart, and you're at least going to have a
I'm
little
gonna
bit.
be hungry.
That's the important part of it.
Can't go get that
Well,
big granola bar.
yeah.
What changed? Because when I was a kid, I listened to my mother tell the stories from the Depression. She was a Depression child, and so was my dad. And she told about the only thing available was carrots, and mom fixed carrots in this way and this way. I mean, she told a dozen different ways to fix carrots. That's all they had for months, because that whole winter, the only thing that they find was a few 100 pounds of carrots.
So I have a story. My dad grew up in Depression, and his father left. He was one of 6 kids, and one of 6 kids, and his father left him. And so my grandmother got sick. She went into the hospital. I don't know if she had gallbladder surgery, but she died. He was 15. And he had younger siblings that went to go live with his older brothers. But he was 15 and he had to live in a boarding house. And he worked for this little grocery store. And he said he'd get so hungry. They had barrels of dog biscuits. He would get a sweet dog biscuit to chew on because he was so hungry. We don't know that kind of.
And we don't know the nutritional value that comes in some of those other things. I was in a huge family and not always enough food. Our cows got a mixed grain with salt that was mingled into it. It was the tastiest stuff. I know because I tried it.
The grain.
There you go.
So yes,
When I was little, I can remember over the pulpit, the bishop would say, hey, Pinnaker family, I want you to go 2 weeks without going to the grocery store. And
Too bad we don't do that.
we've talked about that in our state. As I visit with the state president,
Thinking about.
so why don't we do that? Just, kind of give them a heads up.
well, or we
But-
could just take the challenge
Yeah.
ourselves. We don't need to have some.
But yeah, maybe do that. Every ward say, what, can I get 4 families a week? Back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might not have to do that yet. That would be a great experience.
My wife says she's gonna do that this next month, not buy anything. And just see if we can live out of what's coming out of the ground and
Yes.
out of the storage. And it wouldn't be too hard. The greenhouse is working. The outside plants are now growing. Everything's actually up. I don't know which that might be a little
Yeah, this is here.
harder.
But because you're up here, I think you're probably more prepared than down in the city.
And we do have a system where you put it out. Does somebody have an onion I can borrow? Yes, I have some. Come on over. So we're already doing that.
That's pretty.
And when there's produce being on, we see frequent posts, this many bags on the curb or on the table next to the porch, yeah.
We can get out at our word on Sunday. Go to the kitchen, there's bags of this and that, you know.
We have a community garden that we put together. We harvest on Saturday night.
Lots of sweet potatoes. So anyway,
So let's,
that's.
we'll tell you what we got.
Yeah, can you run through that one time just for video purposes? Each, just walk through pick up a can and handouts and stuff so I can video it one time.
We're gonna go through first these. So this is a 72-hour kit list. Just give them an idea of, hey, you know, what could I put in a 72 hour? We also have one on the backside. I think it said, oh, okay. We have one, a car emergency kit. Just again, handouts that everybody can take. Up here, maybe more. We found what pet preparedness. You know, we hear about that. Some of the things that are happening, and, you know, the pets are left behind. And what do we do with those? We have, here is, we'll let this is a list of the current prices, 2023 at the Bishop Storehouse or storage. These are all the products that we have this year. We used to have other products, but the church has got down to 18 products. It's simple for us. This list is the BYU study. This one shows approximately what it would take for one person per year, how much product it would have.
Like you said, it has heat, it has sugar.
Yeah, and some of the things you may not use, it has add-on stuff at the bottom. So we had a family come in, they were from up north, came in and said, well, we had this room. Oh, that's a great list, you know. So, well, how would we figure out what we need? And so I said, well, if you had this amount, you just divide it by the number of kids you got, the family, and they had 4 altogether, 2 adults, 2 kids, and I said, so it would last you 3 months then, just divide it by that number. So it's at least a good list. Then, okay. And then the last that we came up with, we talked about before, this is a year list of add-on things you can do. So for example, it says January the 1st, it says the first week you get prayer. That's probably a pretty good thing to start with. Second week, buy salt. Third week was yeast. Fourth week was wheat. And then it said non-essential items, and it had toothpaste, deodorant, shampoo, and take one item off of that list and add to your stuff. And February comes around, look at what you might be able to add in another list. And slowly, for a young family, it slowly build up. And it's a great list, and it's a year list. If you have that, yeah, it would be budgeted, but
If they were on a tight budget, you could still do it.
you know, we talked about if you knew as a family you used 4 cans of spring beans a week, however the menu was, like we had, you had kind of multiple things, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you get the same thing. You know, on Saturday, you got whatever was left. They say, well, if I know I need 3, let's buy 1 extra can. After 3 weeks, now you've got another week. That's the slow way to build that. So you want to go through some of that over there?
Okay, so we have 3 different kinds of beans. We didn't bring them all. We have black beans and white beans and pinto at the storehouse. Then we have some elbow macaroni, some white rice, some instant potato flakes, there's canned sugar, and this one is the canned white wheat, and canned onions, and carrots, and apples, and rolled oats. We also,
So we have,
we have more than that. We've got flour here. It's all ready to use.
So we have-
And spaghetti bites.
no, and I'll tell you what. Not a good answer, it's an answer. She was asking about spaghetti bites. No, not potato pearls. Since we've been there the last year, they went to potato flakes. The potato pearls had butter and oil in them, and they wouldn't last as long. They had a tendency to absorb some of the canned flavor. So were they?
They were in my bags, but they didn't last. They would go rancid.
So the
they
new
quit
oils
making 'em.
are potato flakes, which don't have the
This
butter, doesn't have the oil,
That replaces
and
some
the 30 years.
30-year shelf life.
So don't count on getting 2,000 calories from serving anymore.
Well, again, but when the time comes to where we're really needing it, we're probably needing a little bit less, rationing a little bit, but at least we'll have something.
And that's what I figured, if we have to start living off of our food storage, the first day will be water only and shrink their stomachs.
Yeah.
We talked to one sweet sister that came in. We were talking about diets and stuff, and she said, my kids have gotten where they'll eat everything. In today's world, we don't. We'll take care of what we like. And she said, I had a system that we started when they were young. If you don't like that, we're gonna have rice. And so whatever she cooked one night, and they go, Mom, I don't want sloppy joes. And she said, that's fine. Tomorrow you're gonna eat rice. What do you mean? You're gonna have whole rice cereal for breakfast, rice for lunch, rice for dinner. And she said, guess what? About 2 days, her kids ate everything that was cooked. And they love everything, there's ways to do that. So yeah, a little bit of water, stuff like that. This is what we have. We're sorry. You're welcome to eat the plants in the garden or the grass outside or whatever.
One of the classes last year was actually what weeds are edible. It was a wonderful class.
But we do
Yes.
edible.
What weeds are edible? Yeah, she did a perfect job of it. And
It's all recorded on the website.
Any other questions?
That's why he's recording.
That's awesome.
So.
walk us through the 72-hour kit stuff that you are just showing so that we've got.
Well, I found this company, this Ready Weiss. I'm gonna promote them because they actually sell gluten-free. Because I have to eat gluten-free. So this bucket has 84 meals in there, and they're all gluten-free. So if I had to go and grab something to take with me, guess what I'm taking? This one's not gluten-free, but this company had a
Yeah,
special.
Rocky, here you go.
This company had a special where if you bought 2, you got 1 free. So that's why I've got these. And what we did was we opened this box and stuffed some in here. So,
Patriot, is it Patriot Supply?
yeah,
They
Patriots.
have specials and they're about the size of that small box.
Mhm.
And it's a 1-week supply per person, and they have them on sale all the time for like $19.
Right.
And so for our state, when we're voting, we want to have 72-hour kit for everybody. It's like, oh, I can't do that. Just go buy the boxes. At least you've got something.
Right.
And if we're after that, we still need food, come to the store. We'll take care of it.
So we just put some things in here. We put, little book, the mess kit, this, there's a water filter straw. Like I said, we took what was in here and stuck this in here too. And we have, there's a list there. Here's some little light things that I stuck in here.
So in this, we took all of our little scout stuff. Our scout stove, some of our scout utensils, And we just save them. And our sons have done the same thing. We're in scouting. Said, here, take your backpack. At least you've got something.
Right.
And that's what we try to do.
So it's something that we can grab quickly. You know, you stuff a pair of
Shoes, sweats,
sweatpants or a sweatshirt or something in there, socks.
So my husband had to be out in the cold. We went in for our kit and bought the hand warmers.
Hand warmers, yes,
So
yes.
now we have to restock. But we had
That's smart. That's a good idea to have. And go through it. You know, you need to check it. Oh, I don't have that, you know. Won't fit me anymore, so you need to recheck and do an inventory quite often.
Eggs, when you have all this dehydrated food.
That's why we like the 5 gallon jug.
Yes, you need to have water.
So we went to a preparedness fair that was put on down in St. George. And the city was there, and they were talking about disaster preparedness. You've probably already done that. But the gentleman who was doing that said, there's 2 things we do. Number one is we use the church boundary system and the state boundary, because we know where everybody's at. So if there's a disaster, we could call one geographical area a state leader or state presidency and know who kind of lives in that boundary. So he says, St. George is divided by church. That's the first thing. He said, non-members don't know that, you know, but it's okay because they're all in the neighborhood with us. So he said, that's number one. And he says, number 2, if there's ever a disaster, we're going to go to where we need it first, putting out fire. So when they were to call up here and say, Diamond Valley, how do you do? We're doing okay, the water pump went out, we don't have any water, but everybody in our area has water storage. They're good, they don't have to run up here and fix that. And they might say, okay, we can't get you water today, but tomorrow we'll bring up a water truck that you can fill your water jugs until you. Right. And so this 5 gallon jug, in my state, along with 72-hour kits, we're asking every family to buy a water jug, whatever it is, so you can have it. So a personal example, one of our neighbors, water pipe broke. Couldn't get it fixed. You know, one of those weekend things, you know, and so we ran out of water. So what we're gonna do? So we had a jug, you know, and went next door and filled it up. In 3 days, they transported water. He said, we survived. We actually learned that. He's our preparedness person. But that's what the city has said. If there's a disaster, we can get you stuff the next day. We can probably get you some temporary power, not right away. So if you can get through that first couple of days, you can pretty much fix it after that. You know, what about these places where they lost these power stations? Or they were in Michigan or whatever. Back east, well, yeah. When those went down, those people in Texas were out of power for a week. Are we thinking about that?
I have a story. I've got it. During the military, and her husband was deployed in Afghanistan, and she's living in Oklahoma at that ice storm that came. She's got 5 little kids, and she's by herself. There's no electricity. There's, you know, and of course everything's. If the computer doesn't work, if there's no electricity, you blow the hot air, you know, and everything. And so there was her and 3 other women. They had 16 kids between. One lady had a home that gas fireplace. So they turned on the gas fireplace and they hung blankets on all the doors and windows and stuff to keep their food. And they were all in there for 10 days. And you couldn't buy gas, you couldn't do anything. Everything was because everything had electricity to run the cash register. Just everything. I was panicked. And she says, Mom, it's fine. They cooked on their gas grill out, you know, but they just cleaned out their houses and brought everything each of them had for their homes. But she's got some storage now. But, you know, it's really important to prepare.
And know your neighbors.
That raises a really beautiful segue into next month also, which one of our topics led by your husband is going to be what to do when you have nothing else to do. What should we store to keep the kids busy, to keep our minds busy when we don't have electricity, don't have phones to keep us entertained, so forth and so on. So you can start just thinking about ideas, because we're going to have a discussion around that. It's not a presentation, it's going to be a discussion.
Closes.
The handouts.
Okay.